Sometimes it records. Sometimes it records way more than we want it to record. Sometimes it sort of records. Because it's a thing. You have to turn it on. The way we're made, we're always on. Now, I don't know what I thought before I was born. I don't know what I'm going to think after this body is gone. But I know that from the time I became a person through now, and probably going on, I plan to go on, I'm thinking, I'm on, I'm feeling, I'm experiencing, I'm responding. I don't have an on-off switch. You know, I like science fiction, so I've seen a lot of movies about robots and all that kind of thing. And usually there's something where something goes wrong, the robot goes off on a tangent or does too much of whatever it's supposed to do. And there was one movie where the guy was trying to shut it down. He said, well, where's the off switch? And he said, there isn't one. So they didn't know how to make it stop doing what it was doing. It was doing what it was meant to do, but it was doing too much of it. So if you had a cleanup robot, it would clean until there was a hole in the floor. If you had a keep the children safe robot, it would keep them so safe that they couldn't breathe or move or do anything because it was just trying to keep them safe. No moderation. Now, in most things, we can always agree that moderation is a good thing. But love is one of those things that, when it's love, you can't get too much. No such thing as too much love. When I was a kid, I used to really rankle at the scripture that talks about the prodigal son. Because I agreed with the one that was home. Now, if you have this much and you divide it, and he took that and wasted it, and you're going to come back and take half of the other, and that's going to be gone. He didn't do anything wrong. Why should his half be gone? That's what we're thinking about God like a human. God doesn't have an end to his storehouse. God doesn't have an end to his love. God is infinite. We talked this morning a little about the difference between eternal and infinite and everlasting. They don't mean the same thing. But a lot of times in talking, we kind of use them the same way. Eternal is outside of time. It doesn't have a beginning and an end. It is. We can safely say that's what God is, right? I mean, that's our conception of God. Maybe when we're more advanced, we'll have an interdimensional explanation. But at this point, that's the way we describe it. But when we think about things in this world, we generally are talking about something finite. Even when we talk about, I'll use marriage, we talk about till death do us part. And sometimes it doesn't even do that. Some of it goes beyond that. But when we talk about it, we're generally talking about a lifetime, whether you believe in reincarnation or not. You know, some people have relationships where they know they knew each other before. Maybe he was the wife and she was the husband. Maybe it was mother and child. Maybe it was father and child. Maybe it was best friends. We don't know. But you have relationships where you feel like you kind of know the person, you know? And it's more of a continuation of a connection in those cases. Or you meet someone that you feel like you know them already. You didn't have to get to know them, you know them. Again, you feel like you're continuing something that you started. Now those feelings are very real. I'm not going to expound on reincarnation and all of that because we all have our own beliefs and they're all valid. The thing that I'm trying to express is that when we say love, we're talking about many different things. I love coffee, but I don't have an eternal relationship. My joke, of course, you all have heard this joke. I used to be blonde, and you are what you eat. So I love coffee and chocolate. But love is really, truly who and what we are. And it sounds really abstract because we think of love as an abstract thing. Most of the time when we see love, it's the outpicturing of love. Love is something that we feel and we do things in relation to that feeling. We do loving things. We have loving kindness. But love is so much more than that. Love is like gravity. You could say that the earth loves us because it keeps pulling us back. You can jump as high as you want, it'll pull you back. You can get up in that airplane, it'll keep pulling you back. It wants to be with you. When we talk about the love of God, we're not talking about, if you do this, I love you. If you don't, forget it, it's over. A lot of us grew up in that kind of a either or kind of a thing. But that's not the love of God. God's love is so beyond. We use the word love as a metaphor for what that feeling is. It's beyond what we know as human love because it's truly unconditional. Now, the closest we get to it is parental love because most mothers, when they see a baby, they just melt. Okay? But even that is not the love of God. The love of God is so much deeper than that. The love of a mother, you know I'm prejudiced, okay? I got the best mother in the world. I know you do too, but I got the best mother. And mother love looks at the mess that the child made, and he may not love the mess, but loves the child anyway. Now, when you're parenting a child, sometimes you have to let the child experience things that are not pleasant so that they know better. They reach for the hot stove, you have to let them touch it one time because you've told them not to touch it. And they keep reaching. When they experience it, then they understand. We see this in our lives. We've had God the Father, God the Mother, where we wanted something so badly, God says, okay. And then, oh boy, we wish we had listened and just said, what do you want, God? Rather than, I want this. Now, I'm making a joke now. Joke. Neon sign, joke. Do you remember how many people prayed for rain during the drought? Sometimes what we want isn't necessarily what we think we're asking for. That may not be necessarily what we think we're putting out there. We really wanted a little rain, a little time, over time, and just enough. Now, one paradigm is that all these thousands of people praying for rain. Oh, that's one paradigm. Another paradigm is that the earth needed this inundation. Silt is being brought in and making land more fertile. Some things are being washed away. Some things that were weaker, that were kind of not on anybody's mind, are now on people's minds to fix. Things that needed to be fixed and weren't quite up to snuff, we're finding it out. So there are blessings even in that which is inconvenient, we'll call it. That's another kind of love. Love also implies freedom. Because when you love someone, you don't want to hold them in bondage. You want them to be free to their highest good. Now, as humans, we don't always know what our highest good is, so how do we know what anyone else's is? We may think we do, but we're reminded every day that there are a lot of surprises out there that God's got for us. Now, if we know that God is a loving God, if we know that no matter where we are, all of God is, we don't have to be afraid. Because as you say, God's got your back, your front, your up, your down, your side, your up under, your next time, your to be, your might be. And it's the mights that scare us a lot of times because we don't know what's going to be around that corner. We might want a certain outcome, but we're not sure. The thing about that is, if we're talking about the God of the universe, the God that knows all, which means knows you, inside and out more than you know yourself, this God is not going to lead you into temptation. This God is not going to put you in a bad spot. This God is not going to put you somewhere that you can't hang. Because this God loves you. And this God loves you enough to let you grow. That's what choice is. You know, we say, when I was a kid, I used to worry about, you know, God is everything, then why didn't he just get rid of the devil? End the problem, right? Well, we're learning, we're expressing, we're exploring. What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? What happens if I do something else? We can't explore that without choice. We'd be robots. We'd be those robots that can only do one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing. But we have choice. We have an abundance of choice. Every moment you can make another choice. You can tune out of what I'm saying and think about when you were 5 years old. You can tune right into every word I'm saying. You can tune into the colors. You can tune into anything. You have total flexibility in your mind and your attention. And your attention is your power of choice. Your attention is where you focus your energy. Remember that as an expression of God, you have all the qualities that God has. And that includes wisdom. Part of you knows, I mean really knows what to do. Now this might not be our conscious self all the time, but it is part of yourself all the time. Part of you really knows exactly what to do at any time, any circumstance. And it is going to try to have its way. And it's not out of punishment or duty. It loves. It is you. It is God expressing through you. And it is God, when we talk about that voice within, I know you've all experienced it, where you've had your own thoughts, and then there's a slight different quality. And something's telling you, well, maybe not that way, maybe do this. And you do that, and you see that it has a different quality. I know you've experienced this. And it's a habit kind of a thing. The more you listen to that voice, the more you hear that voice, the more you pay attention to where this guidance comes from, what it feels like, the easier it is to tune into it and get that inner guidance. Now going back to the prodigal son, the one that went away and spent his money loosely is said to have come to himself. That means he remembered who he was. Sometimes we're out here in the world and we think that the economy has an effect on us and our boss is giving us a hard time and that's why we're unhappy, and the neighbors won't turn their stereo down and that's why we're sleepy, and all these other things out here are just running us ragged. But we have a power of choice wherever we are and whenever we are. And when you come to yourself and remember that you're the beloved child of God, that God is always right there where you are in its entirety, not a little piece. I mean, we got 7 billion people on the planet, but the power of God is within each one. Not a piece. All of God is centered in you as you. Whether you feel it or not. Whether you acknowledge it or not. You know, these people who are doing things that we disapprove of, the shooter in Charleston, God is still within him, whether he acknowledges that or not. The power of God is within him. We have choice, which means we can choose against our own best interest. Just as that child is, okay, I told you not to touch the stove, I'll let you touch it. Oh, now you understand, you won't do it anymore. We are all connected. Now, the shooter in Charleston, still a child of God, still connected to us. When we say peace begins with me, that's not an abstract concept. When we stand in our peace, stand in our love, and realize our unity with all, we have a tangible, real effect on our all. I don't pretend to know what happened in Charleston in terms of a cosmic level. But I see items that needed to be discussed. I see lives that needed to be celebrated. I see the opening of some dialogue, of some relationship relating to. some responsibility, ability to respond. You know, if you've got a sore and you just cover it over and don't wash it, it's going to fester. It wants attention. Just like those things in our lives that hurt want attention. That's why they hurt. Pain is like an alarm clock. When the alarm clock rings, you cut it off first. Then you turn on the light, get your glasses, and, oh, it's Sunday. But the first thing you do is turn off the alarm. And that's all pain is trying to tell us. Whether it's pain in our relationships, pain in our planet, the things that are going on with the earth changes, pain in our relations with each other, between nations. It's an alarm clock. It's saying, this needs attention. Hey, throw me some love over here. And remember, love is not just romantic or fluffy. Love is caring. Love is that feeling of, I am that I am. So when you love someone, you want for them, oh, let's be real, not just the best. You want even more than the best. When you love someone, you want them to have the highest possible. Even more so than yourself. Because when you are loving, you're looking outward. Love is not looking what? Love does not count its own. Love is looking outward. When you love, you are feeling a connection. You're feeling that I am this I am, and so that your good is my good, and my good is your good, and I would not want anything that would impede you. Now, it's easy to say, well, those are those people, but we're unity. We know that we're connected. Even if you were not part of this teaching, if you were a science geek, I'm a geek, so I can say that. Even if you're a science geek, if you're into quantum physics, we're all connected. If you look at it on any level, you can see the connection. Even if you just look at this beautiful blue planet from space. This is one, there's no lines between this is that state and this is that country. Those are just something that we thought up and threw on a map. Everything is connected. The air that's in your lungs has been through the planet. Some part of what you're breathing was in the lungs of Jesus Christ. This is proven. I'm talking fact. This is not faith. This is fact. We are so connected that the very molecules that are part of our bodies today will be different when we leave. And I will have some of the molecules that are in your bodies, and you will have some of mine. We can't help but be connected. And believe me, all of these cells, remember they say that only 10% of the cells in our bodies are human cells. Did you know that? Only 10%. You have mitochondria, you have bacteria, viruses, all sorts of little things, critters, that make us us, and we couldn't live without them. We couldn't breathe, we couldn't digest our food. You are a little universe walking around. You are a colony, you are a congregation walking around. And those cells help each other. There are cells in your body who are programmed to die so that others can live. There are cells in your body that make it easier for other cells to go about their business. That's their only job, is to help. You are made in a form of love. Your very body is held together by a cooperation, a desire for the good of the whole. This is who you are. So when we look at something out here in the world and it brings us displeasure, we'll call it, we're seeing that there's something in us that does not feel united with that. There's something in us that feels out of a vibrational harmony. Because we know we're all vibration, right? It's all energy. You are energy. So your thoughts and feelings are part of the energy that you are sharing in the world. Even if you're not speaking your feelings are coming out in the energy that you're releasing just by being. So when you start from a peaceful center, and you stay in that peaceful place, that is what you're exuding. The same thing with love. Now, if I am feeling in a loving nature, I'm just loving all things, and I read something or hear something that disturbs my peace, it is up to me to look at my reaction to that and find out what it is that I'm responding to. So let's use the thing in Charleston. This, you have Roy playing for this because he put this on my heart. We'll use the thing in Charleston. Young man believes that by killing these people who he does not know, it will have a chain reaction and cause something to happen that he thinks is good. Now, we may not judge that as good, but in his mind, whatever you want to say about it, in his mind, he was doing something for the good. What he believed was the good. Now, we don't have to like what he believed was the good. We don't have to agree with it. But he is still a child of God. And there are many of us who are out here with 7 billion people, 7 billion ways of thinking, 7 billion ways of understanding things. And if I don't take the time to listen with love to the message of these other beings, how will we ever relate? There are many people, and you all know this, many people who have all their lives hated something because they didn't understand it. There are many times people have relationships that seem discordant, but when they talk, when they really get to know each other, it evaporates because it wasn't really there. It was an idea. It was a way of looking at something, but those are facts. They are not the truth. Facts change. The truth does not change. And the truth is that God is all. God is love. You are love. Now, you may not feel loving, but you are loved regardless. One of the songs I really like by Janet Stanfield is named I Believe, and she says, whether or not you believe in God, God believes in you. Think about that. You wouldn't be here if God didn't believe in you. Why would God bother with you if God didn't know that you were one of those good and very good things that He created? So you're here because you matter. You're here because you are essential to the good that is needed. You are essential to express the choice to be loved. Now, we go out into the world and we experience things that we've never seen before. But if we come with the spirit of love, of being open, we are guided and we are directed to our highest good. Now, that might seem contradictory, because you say, well, these people in Charleston, was that their heart? They were sitting in church. We don't know. Remember, we are all connected. We have a puzzle that's made out of more than 7 billion pieces, and it's in space and time. And all those pieces fit together. Let's say, for instance, if when you started this life, you were told that you could live a really nice life, or you could live a slightly shorter life and die kind of quick, but it'll make a difference in the world. You might have chosen that. Some people choose to come with something, a birth defect, we call it, or with an extra finger, I did, or with conjoined twins. We don't know. We don't know anyone else's journey. But we do know they are centered in love just as we are. And we know that we have the power, not just the responsibility, but the power to make a difference by what we think and feel about it. Where we put our attention is where we put our power. So if we put our attention on, isn't that a horrible thing, then we're giving power to that. When we give our power to, that is a child of God that was in pain, or else he couldn't have done that. That is a child of God who didn't understand what I know, who didn't feel the love of God the way I feel it. And I place that on him now. We can make a positive difference. Now, that doesn't mean we condone what happened. We don't have to condone it. Who's in charge? Who's in charge of the world? God's in charge. So do we believe that God made a mistake? Mm-hmm. God knows what God's doing. God knows what we need. So that means in our lives, we are not just loved. We are beloved. Think of beloved. That's so enveloping. And that's what you are. It's not, I love you to this point. You can have this, all of this is yours. No, all of this is yours because God is infinite. It never runs out. So you can divide half and half and half and half and half and you still have infinity. That's how much you're loved. That's how much of a difference you make. That's how important you are. So realize that within you is this inexhaustible fount of good. This never depleted, never cut off, never hindered flow. That is you. That's not something you have. That is what you are. So be yourself. Be who you are. Love everything and everybody. It's easier than you think. And it takes off so much that you don't have to deal with. So much angst. So much uncomfortable feeling. Because love is what you are. When you feel uncomfortable, check yourself. You're not loving. When you go back to love, I guarantee you, you'll be in an expansive, creative, spiritual place that will bring only good to you and everything around you. Namaste.
Namaste.